Hello, everybody, and welcome to Answer the Call. Today's topic is your thoughts on ship customization. So, recently, Star Citizen has unveiled their ship customization system with the 300 series and their 300 celebration or their origin celebration. And I and many other YouTubers did a video on this, and for the most part, I think most of us are kind of praising the system. I think the idea of making your ship your own, the fact that this leads into possible modularity of ships in the future, think Caterpillar, modularity of rooms, things like that, is pretty exciting. So the potential that this has is really great. The potential that it has for funding the game is really great. But I think a lot of us may have had issues with the addition to ship customization on the cosmetic front is the upgrade system with components. So for me, I made a video about it. I'm not too worried about it yet. What I really wanted to hear to summarize my video was, where does the line stop with the upgrades? Are you going to sell the highest end components that you would have to earn both reputation and UEC to get? So we all know that, like, you could buy UEC, there was the Voyager Direct store, all those things before, but what wasn't realized all way back then was that, most likely the components that are the highest end are maybe locked behind killing a really hard boss, or earning some sort of reputation with the company that makes it, or the NPC that makes that weapon. So, the buying of UEC is not the end-all be-all of upgrading your ship. There's other factors in game that are involved with that. So where I take issue is how far are you willing to go with the system? If it's just going to be kind of what is in the customizer now, which is grade B components, it's just kind of giving you a little kick in the pants and a head start with your ship instead of a massive skip in gameplay. So I'm just kind of interested in your thoughts on my video, as well as just your thoughts on the customization system in general, what issues you have with it, what you like about it, and so on. So with that said, pretty quick intro to this. I think a lot of you guys kind of know what's going on. So we're going to bring in our first caller, who is Sergey Novak, or ASN. So ASN, how you doing?
Hey, doing good. How are you doing?
Good. Welcome to Answer the Call, man.
Yeah, it was pretty fun watching Emmy figure out a lot of this stuff.
Yeah, so for those of you guys, if you're watching on YouTube, this will probably be a YouTube video after this. I had my girlfriend Emmy customize her ship to her liking, and then she kind of played with it a little bit in game. It was a good time. So yeah, what are your thoughts on this? And did you watch the video? And do you have anything you want to add to it, basically?
So I think it's definitely the step in the right direction when it comes to adding cosmetic stuff to the game. So like the way I look
100%.
at this is that they are trying to do a bit of everything with the system.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why they also added gameplay components to it.
Okay.
While I personally do not like that choice and don't agree with having gameplay influencing components being sold for money, I kind of understand it from what they're hoping, because I think this is potentially a source of revenue for them, and they want to see how much of it is. So like I can see this expanding to all of the ships in the game, and I can see it bringing a lot in terms of visual detail and customization, making players feel more connected to their ships.
Yeah.
The problem will, of course, the question is, of course, the problem will arise when everybody's buying upgraded items through this, and that will affect balance and a lot of stuff, which is hard to get your head around even as is, and it's going to get worse and worse. So that part I'm not really a fan of. But like, I'm a little bit of an optimist regarding this stuff. So if the community kind of is more in the opinion that cosmetic DLCs should be the priority, and anything else should be just like an emergency solution to whatever plan there is, then CIG might listen to that. And while the system is being added, the functionality is there, and as the more it expands, the more people will pay money, and this will be indeed a source of income, because there are a lot of games that entirely survive on cosmetic DLCs, and with the amount of with the size of the Star Citizen community, with the marketing team, and the way it is known around the internet, it's not that hard to generate as much cosmetic DLC revenue for Star Citizen as well. So it's definitely within the realm of possibility. I just think they're just trying to stab at a couple of things to see how well it sticks.
Yeah.
And I don't like the gameplay stuff. I've never liked any of the gameplay changing things in any game, but I've always kind of accepted that ship sales are a part of this funding, and they won't be, hopefully, in the future whenever the game is closer to a release.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I got a lot of pushback on Reddit about my video, was that they're selling ships and they're selling UEC, but and they were selling on Voyager Direct, and I got a lot of pushback about that. But the thing about minus the UEC, obviously, about the selling of ships and the Voyager Direct store, is those were always planned to go away and become part of your in-game, what you would buy with in-game currency. And obviously you can buy in-game currency on the store, but you would just have the currency. You may not have the reputation or anything like that. Like, we obviously don't know how the game is going to play out, but there are other gates that you would have to get through to potentially get certain weapons later on down the line, we expect.
Yeah, and that's the issue, right? I think a lot of the disconnect stems from the fact that there aren't many in-game rewards or unique items that you can earn or stuff you can do, or neither are. Even if they were in, they wouldn't be persistent. So the issue is so it's I think it's the way the game is being funded while it's being developed, and at the stage it just feels even more odd that you can buy upgraded items that aren't really persistent from big patch to big patch, nor are that you can earn in the game. Like, nobody goes out for, oh, I'm gonna hunt this merchant stand to get this epic laser, or I'm gonna intercept these traders to get this awesome shield generator. That's not in, but you can pay money to get that now. So I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from.
Yeah.
And visually it looks really good. I like the application. I like that they're using the website for it too, which is nice. But it should also be literally as intuitive or whatever in the game as well. So it should exactly be reflected in the game, on especially on the visual side. Yeah, but in general, I think it's way better than before, but it's still not great because of the gameplay stuff, the items that they're selling.
Well, okay, about the gameplay items, and then we'll see where our conversation goes from there. The whole time that the game's been in development and has been being funded, the idea behind selling UEC was always to help the guy, and Chris knows his audience. His audience is not 15 to 25. It's more 24 to 45. So most of his audience works a full-time job, likely has children, and the amount of game time that they have to play each day is probably lower than your average, maybe League of Legends, or I'm thinking of other cosmetic-based games, maybe even Warframe, or any other BRs, Fortnite players would have. So the idea behind selling the upgraded components would be to give those people, and those are the people who have more expendable income, a chance to enjoy the game as much as someone who has more time than they do.
Yeah, but I think there's a big problem with that argument. And
Okay.
I keep hearing this argument of, oh, like what about people who have little time and a lot of money?
Mm-hmm. This
Well,
argument is straight from Chris's mouth. So
yeah, and I understand where he's coming from, but then I have to ask, as a game designer, what is the exception? And there's also a large exception of people who have time and money.
yeah.
So what are you going to do about those people, right?
Yep.
So we're talking about a large audience that backstar citizen from developed nations who have some sort of a stable life and an income,
Mm-hmm.
and some are even lucky to have time and money. So those are going to break the balance even more. I do understand where the point is from, and that's where I said so this issue is getting really confusing because we have base ships being sold, and until now I was like, okay, base ships sold, you have the stock gear inside, so even if you pay for a good ship, somebody who's in the game who gets the best item upgrades, knows his stuff, will always have better upgrades than you. So even if you bought the ship, you wouldn't be able to compete as much, right?
Yeah.
Even from a technical perspective, beside player skill. And now we're adding we're adding this it was already talked about, but selling currency, and on top of upgrading ships on buying them. So the issue is getting more and more and more complex, and it looks like it's not as well designed. Like we're talking about tackling a balance issue from every angle, and
Which is already almost impossible based on the number of ships and the number of components and all the factors that can come into play about balancing this game. And now they're adding another element to it, right?
And how are you? Yeah, exactly. And how are you gonna so the issue is, let's say you sell. I mean, somebody posted a sheet on this. The in-game UEC worth of some of the upgraded 300i items doesn't match the dollar price.
Yeah.
So how are you going to match the dollar price to the fluctuating in-game economy? Are you going to lock the currency? Like that's also not possible, because then you would prevent players from having an influence. So then you would have a separate gold currency, which is a lot of the other games do, which really, really is annoying and breaks a lot of the stuff and makes the game more of a market rather than a functioning dynamic economy.
Well, when you say they'd have a separate gold currency, do you say they would need to do it to keep it from fluctuating? Because that's what the gold currency would be.
It's an option, but I wouldn't want that.
No, they're not going to do that. But what if I say the person who is buying these components wouldn't really care about the fluctuation of it? He's just trying to play the game. Now, there's the outliers that you explained, right? There's the person with time, money, and knows how to play the game, and is going to take advantage of the system. And that's where the argument, and I think you and I are on the same page, is that there has to be a line, and it cannot cross that line in order to prevent that from happening. So what if the argument that I made in my video, that everything is fine as long as it doesn't pass where we are right now? Grade B components. It is just giving the player who doesn't have a lot of time, and this is another thing that Chris said as well, is he wanted the game to be mostly NPCs, so it wasn't this massively competitive game. It was someone who's not a superstar FPS player or a superstar pilot is still going to be able to kill a not so great NPC and be like, yeah, I killed that guy. It feels good. So in order for that to continue on a little bit, and I gave the example of if you had an MMO skill cap of 100, and you allowed someone to pay up to 40, would that be okay?
Now, when it comes to, I'm gonna So I think when it comes to Star Citizen, you cannot expect people to have, at least the majority of the community, to have an arena-based standard of ranking, of comparison of items and stuff, because it's such an asymmetrically designed game. Once the law system is in and when other elements are in, there's never an equal fight. There's never an equal component fight. And even with the slight differences, there are a lot of factors that go into the situation. So there's no straight pay to win. But I think at this point, it's an ethics thing, right?
Yeah.
How do you want your game to be identified as something where you can literally monetarily purchase everything, even though it doesn't mean that you're going to win, but it's something you can do? The root of the issue, I think, is, I know the discussion is about the customization system, and I said the visual stuff is great. and it's a good start for expanding it to all the ships. But the root of the issue is financials. And I know most companies cannot talk about financials as openly and whatever, not publicly, but if CIG starts opening nearly all avenues of receiving money, then that kind of shows that they are indeed just looking for any sort of money. So they don't have a limit on how to receive money at this point, nearly.
Yeah.
And this is not a issue of the game design or whatever. This is more of a business issue, in my opinion, or because it clearly shows that they're like, okay, any money is fine. So let's just do it as much as we can. I don't blame a company for making money. I've never done so. Like, if the end goal of Star Citizen is what it is, then it's fine. But you don't have to sacrifice this much. That's why I'm saying cosmetic DLC run games exist. They run
and they
on
do well.
millions and millions of dollars. Yeah, and they do well. And the Star Citizen community is loyal, and they keep purchasing more ships. And even though I'm not a big fan of purchasing in-game content like that, I do understand it for the funding period of the game, and that's acceptable. So that's why I'm saying, until the game is released, in my opinion, they should stick to selling base ship packages and only cosmetics.
Mm-hmm.
And I would even argue that they shouldn't even sell in-game currency at all. They should just 100% focus their marketing cosmetics, get all the cool, shiny.
And
awesome,
would you argue that there's nothing wrong with selling cosmetics only on the website and you can't earn it in game unless you buy it from another player?
That's fine as well.
I think that's okay. They can get away. They can get away from that. Whatever you buy on the website, you can buy in the game. I think if you stick to only cosmetics, you can do that. I really do.
And you can have it
only
2 tiers.
cosmetics.
You can have cosmetics that you can earn in the game, and then you can have cosmetics you can only get on the site. So that would kind of make each one unique to itself and wouldn't take anything from anybody, right?
Yeah.
And
ASN, I would say we're up against it at this point too. So.
What do you mean? Like the?
Sorry, that's like a Canadian thing to say. It's that the calls. I got to keep the calls short. So like up against it is like we're up against a commercial break is what Canadian radio says. I just said it because I listen to a lot of hockey radio. I'm sorry.
So to wrap it up, I like the new system of the cosmetics and how it's visualized on the website. I think it should be integrated into the game. The idea of creating revenue from everything while not as damaging to the asymmetrical gameplay design isn't really ethical at this point. And there are always other methods of CIG to earn revenue.
Mm-hmm.
I wish a great year, and I think it's going great. They're going to top the 40 million mark, and they already did. So at the end of the year, it's going to be cool for them. So I hope they read into those signs, not as, how more can we, get money out of this?
Yeah. But
more like, how can we protect our player base so they're more loyal? How can we reach out to more people without damaging the game?
Yeah.
So that's all I have to say.
Awesome. Well, thank you, and sorry for keeping it short. For those of you guys that may be watching on YouTube, I have a family get together that so I'm trying to keep guys on a certain time limit, I guess, this week. So I apologize if it's like I interrupted him and it was rude. I didn't intend that.
All right. No, it's fine. It's fine. Have a good one.
You too, ASN. Thank you as always for your calls, man. As always. Thank you so much. Bye now. And our next caller is Shadowhunter 255. Welcome, buddy.
Hey. How are you, Twuck? Not bad. We're actually talking about this. I'll check in when you get a chance. Check in discussion because there's a photo that came out of a space station that CIG released, and we're talking about it in discussion.
In general discussion?
Yeah, no. SC just discussion.
Okay.
It's like their new space station that they're putting out. Okay. So really shortly. About this, I don't have a problem with them selling customization. I think that's a great thing to do. I have a serious problem with selling weapons and components. But here's the question that people have been saying to me. Is there any difference between them doing that and buying it with real world money, or them selling the UEC and then using that UEC to buy the components in game?
Yes, because I think now I have to speculate. I'm definitely speculating, but that there would be some sort of, when you get to the highest end stuff, and that's the really only concern that I have, is that when you start coming down to end game, and or let's say mid to end game, that the type of components and the type of upgrades that you would be doing to your ship would be more than just going to a store that's nearby and buying them. There would be some effort that you would have to put in to get them. And I really don't want, just because someone has some money to spend, that they get to skip that effort. That's really the only thing, is if I have to make that effort because I decided that I don't want to spend money on it, then you don't get to either. So even though you buy the UEC, you didn't have to make the effort to earn it necessarily, or you did. You made the effort at your job, right? But you earned your UEC in whatever way that you did. But now you're going to have to spend a little bit of time and actually play the game, because part of the game is also not just going to be the interactions between us and NPCs, but it's going to be the interaction between all the players and NPCs, not just me and the NPCs. It's going to be how you interact with the NPCs when you play is going to affect the economy in the game overall. It's in some way. If you're blocking the NPCs from getting to a certain outpost, let's say, then prices will go up, or and so on. There's so many factors here, but what I'm really saying is that I want people to play the game, because I want to come across people that are playing the game, and when we know that a certain weapon, let's say, or a certain power plant is really valuable, that people are going to have to go to a certain place to get it, or complete certain tasks to get it, potentially. Again, we're very, very, very much speculating. So then, people can maybe take advantage of those players if you're a pirate that are trying to get those things, so on, right? And then the game is a game. It's a universe. It's alive. If everybody's just skipping the game and buying components, then you lose a little bit of that. And that's kind of all my concern is. It's not the sky is falling concern, but it is a slippery slope that we're at the top of the slope right now, and we're starting to slowly go down it. And if we can stop ourselves, because we haven't started moving too fast yet, you know?
Yeah, that's what I would like. I would like them to get away from this buying weapons and buying components, and get away from that. And look, obviously, customization, it's tier 0. There's going to be a lot more customization coming later in. You know, they're going to put flames on the side of ships, all this sort of stuff. They've already said this stuff's coming in. So maybe when that stuff comes in, they'll get away from the weapons and the components part. And I get what you mean when you say, like, for example, and I don't want to say the YouTuber's name because I'm not but another YouTuber has said about the Javelin, for example, where if you have a $3,000 Javelin and you spend $1,000 of real world money to get that Javelin up to sort of military sort of spec faster, you know, is that going to cause problems? And it's a really good question, because it's like, this is a Javelin. This is $3,000 worth of ship. Yes, fine. But as you know, with the Javelin, when it comes out, it's got no engines. It's got nothing. It's just the shell, and you have to.
That's what I thought it was originally, but apparently it's just low, like super low end or whatever.
Oh, okay. Is it? Oh, yeah. Okay. So yeah,
I thought that's what it was too. I was so excited for the Javelin because I thought it would just be an empty shell that you get to customize yourself. But I don't necessarily. Maybe. But regardless, it's the same point that you're making. Yeah.
Yeah, but the thing is that, like, for example, with this, even if it's low-end specs, you know, like, are you going to be able to wipe 4 months, as the person said in the example, 4 months off the actual go through and get this thing up and ready because you spent $1,000 of real world money?
Yeah.
And like you say, also, you know, like, for example, that Javelin, it might have a shield converter or a shield generator, for example, that's in the Sol system. But hey, you have to travel through pirate space to go and get said shield generator.
Yeah.
Well, obviously that's going to cause a lot more gameplay when you actually have to go and get that shield generator compared to just being able to buy it with, you know, $100 real world money.
Yeah.
So yeah, I want them to get away from this whole parts and weapons. If you want to put flames on the ship, you want to change the steering wheel, the seats, the bedding, whatever. That I get that fully customized. I get that, but
I'll ask this to everybody though,
yeah.
especially the people that share your opinion, is that they don't like the customization of component or the upgrade of components at all. But what are your thoughts about, as long as they're not high end? What if it is as long as it allows a player to perform a little bit better? But when like Star Citizen, when you start getting to what I would believe is like the competitive side, and like PvP is always going to be competitive, but when it gets really competitive and when the edges are thin is when you start getting into like the ender game stuff, I would imagine, right? What if you're just a guy who wants to have some better shields for when he goes against NPCs? You know,
I would say,
so to say get rid of them altogether, that's not an opinion I share, but
no.
But so what do you think about just giving them a little bit of a kick, but saying that there's a line?
No, I would say no. Look, I don't want them to sell. This is my view. Obviously, but this is you and I differ on this. I want to say no. I don't want them to sell any components or weapons out of. I reckon if you want to buy the UEC and then fly to Sol, I'm using air quotes here, Sol system to get that generator and everything, fine. But I don't want them to sell components or weapons, because at the end of the day, I think it's going to remove some of the gameplay loops, the piracy, the refueling, the effort of getting there. And this whole argument of I work 40 hours, 60 hours a week, I don't have time to play Star Citizen to go and get a shield generator, I think is a bit of a cop-out to a lot of people.
Well, I mean, when travel times are 25 minutes... potentially, you know, if you're traveling from multiple systems.
Well, yeah, and look, obviously they've said they're going to readjust the sizes and everything at the moment. Nothing set in, and we don't know how long these wormhole travels are going to be. You know, it could be a 1 minute trip down a wormhole to the next system. You know, if that's the case, then you're only going to be looking at 25 minutes to get there.
Yeah,
sure. You know, that you just simply have to, if you've only got half an hour, like as a guy who plays games, let me ask you this question: how many times have you jumped onto a game thinking I've got half an hour to play? Oh, I'm going to knock something out real quick. Like,
never. I don't play. I don't play if I only have half an hour. But
exactly, that's my point.
That's me. You know, I'll. But how many times have I said I'll play for an hour or two, and I play for 7?
Yeah. Sure.
Stellaris is it's it's a hell of a game.
Stellaris, actually.
You know, so
I was watching a stream on that actually. Yeah. But that's what I say. And look, at the end of the day, even if you've only got an hour or two, then I think you should be able to go get that shield generator and then come back. And that just simply means that if you've only got an hour and it takes you half an hour to do that, and then you've only got half an hour to kick around the galaxy, then you just have to use it next time you jump in game. I think this whole time thing is more of a cop-out, to be honest, and I think it's just a way that people just use it as an excuse. It's just, you know, like, and no, someone's saying in chat, only reward people who have 6+ hours. No, that's not true. If you have 2 hours, for example, like, you know, like how many people like work 5 days a week? They've still got 2 days a week that they can still play games. And
isn't that more of an argument on them to provide real fun, engaging, and rewarding gameplay that doesn't take too long? Isn't that on the gameplay designer and not on them to sell it more than anything, guys? Like, right?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, the gameplay loops, the fun in game is going to be jumping to get these components. You know, traveling to these different systems and I don't think you're going to be able to jump, you know, 5 or 6 systems. Like, for example, like Eve does this. I don't know if you've played Eve.
I haven't. Eve I really need to.
Yeah, you should. It's actually quite fun. But I was going to say with Eve, for example, you jump between like 13 or 12 systems. And here's the thing. You are spending a better part of an hour jumping through all these wormholes.
Yeah.
Eve actually has this quite problem. And I've never really seen anybody in Eve sit there and go, you know, like, geez, I got to jump 12 wormholes. I've only got an hour to play. So I think that argument where it's like only 6 hours plus to play, no, I think that's a bit of a cop out because I think at the end of the day that Eve does it. Every other game, Destiny, even like for example, you jump in and you like do a raid for Destiny. I used to play Destiny on Xbox and I had over 3,000 hours for it. We would do raids for 8 to 10 hours a day straight.
Yeah.
Like the argument of only got half an hour to an hour to play is, I don't really have any sympathy for it, but that's me. Yeah.
Okay.
But I should let you go.
All right. Yeah. We'll bring in the next caller, but thank you. And yeah, the only reason I asked you about the component thing was to see if there was any, not swaying you from it, but if it was just strictly no, and that's fine too. I totally understand that. Yeah.
No, I think you should be able to buy these components in game. And
I agree. All right, bud.
Cool. Thanks.
Have a great one. Thank you for your call. All right, and our next caller is Beletar. And bring him in here. Beletar, welcome to answer the call.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
Hello. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. So let me turn you up a little bit. And what are your thoughts, man?
Okay. Well, first up, I watched your video, and it's very much in point. It actually reflects and mirrors my own thoughts and feelings very accurately, so I'm fully on board with that.
Okay.
Maybe I'm a little bit more worried about that component upgrade stuff, because the details we know right now seem to be a little bit worrying and going too much into the pay-to-win money for power direction.
Okay.
But I think to start off, I think what I also do not like from CIG is this discussion we're having right now was very much expected, and with introducing the system and not explaining upfront what their intention in regards to component upgrades via money, with not giving any explanation or context, is a really bad slip up from them on the communication side.
That's slightly unfair, because I want to give them some credit there, where I think they did try to get ahead of this. And listen, they're not the best communicators in the world, but the fact that they're trying is important to me. They did the Q&A session before any of this came out, because they wanted to get your questions and they wanted to answer them before any of this came out. So I agree with you. Their communication has never been good since the dawn of time with this game, but they did try to get ahead of it.
Well, a Q&A is one thing. You can only ask about what you know. Was it clear that there were component upgrades with the customization system? I'm not quite sure.
Because people asked, will I keep the components and will I lose them? And they answered. And they gave a pretty nice, new, interesting answer about insurance that most people didn't know. Or that none of us knew until they answered it. So, I don't know. Listen, you're right, but I'm going to give them some credit for trying to get ahead of some of the issues.
Well, maybe because what my initial thoughts were on that, the recent year has been full of discussions around that topic, pay to win, especially those Electronic Arts debacles in regard to, I think it was Battlefront. So I don't know. I don't feel like, because we are having this discussion and yourself were asking those questions in the video, so maybe they tried, but it didn't quite go far enough. But that's fair.
Yeah, okay. The Q&A still left a lot of questions to be answered and also created new questions, right?
Yep. I think that would be quite a good topic for, are they doing reverse the worst still? I don't know. It doesn't matter. The communication is what it is, and I think we'll have to deal with it as it is now. I think in regards to components being sold for money, I would say that you can do and allow that within certain limits. So I think I would agree with you if there is a strict limit that you can do it. But it's also, if you've established it once, it's dangerous and tempting.
Yeah.
If you're running short on money, to open that up more. So that's something very dangerous.
And that was a big theme of the video, was that Chris will do anything to make this game.
Yep.
And I love that about him, but it's also something that's scary.
Yep. So in an ideal world, I would, for this component thing, try to limit it clearly, so the discussion stops. To have something like you can change components, but only inside grades, as in you have the same number, the same grade, the same size of components, but you can adjust for your playstyle. As in, you can have, if you want, all energy weapons, or a mix of physical and energy weapons, or all physical weapons, if for some reason that suits your playstyle better. That would be a very limiting option. So
Beletar, just continue. I'm sorry. I'm going to bring up the Twitter post that very well fits in exactly with what you said.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be an option to limit this. This would of course be quite limiting in the sense you don't have a lot of options, so that you have the option to pay money for getting the ability to change items, but only with you keep the same number, you keep the same grade, and you keep the same size of items. What you could always also try to do is maybe introduce something like a component budget in, I don't know, points, DPS or whatever.
Okay.
And say you have this total budget to spend. You can pay money, then you have this budget on components, and within this budget you can exchange components. So you want to go for more firepower, you can do so, but this will limit your options to get shields or engine or other components.
Okay. I think that's pretty interesting way to look at it.
Yeah, I think it is too, but on the practical side, the issues that arise will be, how do you measure a weapon budget versus an engine budget and balance that out?
Yeah.
So
it's a lot of work.
It's kind of tricky.
Yeah,
it's a lot of work. It's kind of tricky, but it might be something to look into. Or you split it up into different budgets. You have a weapon budget, engine budget, shield budget, and you can change components within that. That might be
because there'll be
more
subcomponents and all that in the future. Yeah.
Okay. Just as an idea to maybe spitball on something.
Yeah.
So if you allow upgrades for money, I think you should say you buy the option for money to change components, but I don't think it should be like clear upgrade paths in packages that are worth $20, $40, $60, but you spend, I don't know, $30 for the ability to change components, and then you're somehow inside some kind of budget. That would be okay.
Yeah, that's interesting, and I definitely like what you, and that's why I brought up the tweet. Is Mudfucker tweeted at us and said I would be okay with ballistic versus energy weapon loadouts. Like, yeah, so that's the one thing that the system was really supposed to be for. I definitely don't think that they delivered on this, and this might be the next video that I make. And again, I kind of want to get away from more of the polarizing and drama stuff, but there really is no play style in the game currently. So the components and weapons and like there isn't really stealth gameplay, and there isn't really I don't know, like I can't even come up with another style of play at the moment, right? Because there really aren't significant styles. So I like that idea, but there obviously it requires some
more gameplay options.
Yeah, before the customization actually is a thing. But yeah, is there anything else you want to add before we move on to the next caller?
I would like to add maybe an idea in regard to the cosmetic side.
Okay.
If we're running short on time, I'm okay with you kicking me out. But
I'm running short on time, but I'm sure you can get it out there pretty quick.
Let's try. Okay, because I was picking up some discussions in regard to being able to change your customization. And I would say in regard to cosmetics, I would just I would not make players choose one time, buy this cosmetic and then apply it and then have it relatively unchanged. I would let everyone buy whatever cosmetics they want, all of them if they want. More money for the game, the better, and it's only cosmetics. And then implement a mechanism in-game maybe, where you can change them, and it would work somehow similarly like the insurance system. So that at the terminal you have an option that doesn't say retrieve your ship, but customize. You spend in-game currency, to be able to do that. It will then take time. You can only do that when your ship is in storage. And then you can change around all your customization options freely whenever you want, spend some in-game currency on it, and maybe even have an expedite option so you spend more in-game currency on it.
I believe that will happen. Do that. And I believe that's the plan. Because they mentioned this is simply if you were to go to Origin, this would be the type of customization that you would get. But you can also go to an aftermarket shop, for example, like when people soup up their Hondas. You can get totally different paint, totally different engine, totally different. You could do everything, but there's a limit to what a Origin would allow you to do with their product, and this is what they're providing for real money. I don't think that they would provide the aftermarket type of customization outside of the game, and that would be all inside of the game, and it would give you more options, right? But
maybe it's just the first pass, and they got into the game what they could implement in that amount of time. I hope they're going that direction, because it takes pressure off the money for power thing, because the more cosmetics you can buy, the less weapons you have to sell.
True. Yeah, it's an interesting thought.
That's about it.
All right, well, thank you, Beletar.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. All right, and our next caller, you may have heard his voice before. His name is Morphologis, and he has a YouTube channel, so you should go check it out. What's up, Morphologis? What's
going on, Mike?
Long time no talk.
Back. Yeah, I know. It's got to be like at least 30 minutes or so. So we were talking for a little bit earlier, but I know that a lot of people might not understand the perspective I'm coming from. So I'm going to lay a little bit of groundwork here to establish my argument here, because I have a very different perspective on this, as you know, on the whole subject. So you've been kind of getting in the weeds, which I think is very concerning to people who follow Star Citizen very closely, such as us, and those who are watching this presumably right now are very concerned about Star Citizen and want to know more. But as a content creator such as yourself, I am very much concerned about the growth potential of the product, the growth potential of Star Citizen, its visibility, because that is how both I create content, but also how Star Citizen survives. It depends on its visibility to people who are not necessarily watching all of these videos, watching anything about Star Citizen other than maybe the occasional video here or there.
Yeah.
So my primary issue with the customization system, and I know you're familiar with this because you watched my video, but I'm going to tell you guys, for those of you who maybe didn't, is the visibility of it to other people. Now, I understand that they have said in their blog posts, they have it on the website in a Q&A somewhere, just if you dig, blah, 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 that, you can buy this stuff in game. But considering the Forbes article, and I know we don't want to talk about it because we're all sick of it, but you guys have to realize that propagated through the internet like wildfire, and I have to face it on a daily basis, thousands of comments on it. So it is how people outside of Star Citizen, unfortunately, are looking at Star Citizen right now. So from that perspective, from the 30,000-foot view, I think Star Citizen has a real problem right now with PR capital. So what I think they did wrong with the rollout of Tier 0 here is its visibility to people who are not very familiar with Star Citizen. We already know that it's famous for quote-unquote macro transactions, which I don't really buy. I'll get into that in a second.
Okay.
So to introduce something that appears on the surface to be microtransactions with no way to buy the stuff in-game, I think is visibly very bad for Star Citizen. So that's kind of laying out my argument right here. I can get a little bit more into this, into detail here.
Go for it.
All right. So microtransactions operate on the presumption that people are more willing to pay small amounts of money versus large sums of money because it's easier to say make a 50 cent or $1 purchase.
Okay.
Whereas macro transactions don't really operate on the same impulsive nature as human beings, because spending $100 for a regular person is not really an impulsive buy. Sure, it is for some people. I mean, I'm sure because, where you work, you're aware that people are willing to be impulsive about very large sums of money. But for the average person, a few dollars, they'll sweat. All right. And so that's why I don't buy that. And so what I think makes this feel different on the surface is that microtransactions get at the worst nature of us. And I don't think that's a good look for Star Citizen at the moment.
Mhm.
I think it would be fine to do it. Let me be clear here, because I'm fine with them selling cosmetics. It's worked well for BDO, Black Desert Online. But only that's only because they can sell them in game. Like the people who buy them can sell them, then go turn around and sell them in game. So it goes into the player market. But also they don't tend to sell, or at least they didn't used to sell anything that was pay to win. So it was purely cosmetic.
Yeah.
Now they're a little bit disingenuous because they don't say that you can buy them in game on the website, but that's a Korean MMO. They're known for doing shady stuff like that.
Yeah.
Star Citizen, I think, needs to be more transparent with this.
The whole thing around Star Citizen is that they were supposed to be different. They're supposed to be open, right?
Exactly. And as I was telling you before, to reiterate, I think the most important thing for them, obviously, is to say that they're different, but to be as transparent as possible, to have people understand the project as quickly and easily as possible, through the most accessible way possible. Because seriously, I've had people ask me, how do I buy ships on this website? In the comment section. I mean, all the time.
Yeah.
So I know a lot of you who are watching this right now are thinking, well, they said it in the Q&A. Guys, probably over 95% of the people who watch Star Citizen content maybe not regularly, but every so often, don't watch anything like from the devs. They don't watch any of those videos. So they don't know this stuff. So how are they going to know that you can buy this stuff in game eventually? And like, we know it. So we're like, okay, it's just cosmetic stuff. You can buy it in game eventually, and you can sell it in game eventually.
But it's not our job to explain that. It should be the first thing. It should be like the caveats for the roadmap. You have to click through that to even read it, right?
Right, exactly. And I think that's an excellent point. People still click through it, but at least there's a chance that people will see it because it's right there before you go into it. And I think that whatever form it takes, I suggested showing UEC price alternative over the US cash offer, whatever cash offer you have. But it could just be a disclaimer at the beginning, which I thought was a great suggestion in the comment section. But they really need something, at least right now, to do this. And I think this gets into the issue of a lack of perspective, like sort of an echo chamber of people who don't understand the way that this looks from the outside.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's just kind of where I'm coming at.
Yeah, and that was a point that I didn't make in my video, and when I watched yours, I was like, oh, yeah. Like, not being very, very clear to anyone who is going to spend the extra dollar that they don't really need to, should know that they don't really need to. It's just extra. Right,
and I think people are still going to end up spending the money on it.
Sure, why not?
It's a few extra bucks, people will say, but at least they were honest. In fact, I would make the argument that the honesty sells more, because people are like, wow, you guys are different. I want to support you. I mean, that's
what it was in the beginning.
Start a Citizen. Right. That's why I've spent as much money as I have, because I believe in the project. I believe in Chris Roberts. I think they're doing a good job. But, if my first introduction is something deceptive like this, you're not going to get those people who follow like we do. Yeah. Right. So yeah,
and I think like even people that do follow like we do, like for me, probably more than most content creators in this game, is they're becoming very skeptical, and anytime that they do anything, the first thought is that their intentions aren't pure. For me, anytime it's involved in money, I'm like, what are they trying to do here? And I don't think that's the case necessarily with them, but I'm starting to think that way.
And I think that that's not a good thing. Planting the seeds of doubt is a very dangerous thing to do, and they need to be very careful about that and take a step back every so often. And this is one of those cases that I think they should have taken a step back before they sent this out and thought about how this is perceived from outside of the community.
Yeah, true. Yeah, man.
So yeah.
All right. Well, yeah. I mean that. I'm glad you brought that up here, because that was the point that you made that I was really I was missing personally and didn't realize and didn't even think of, is that it's about the perception as well, and that not only that, but that if someone's going to spend money, they should be very clear about the intentions of the game and so on and so forth that has to do with your pledge. So yeah, Morph, I appreciate it, man.
Absolutely no problem. I know you're a little bit tight on time, so I kind of got it out very concisely, very quickly. Do we still have a little bit of time to continue discussing, or do you can move on to the next caller if you don't have much more time?
I don't, but we can take a minute or two if you need it.
No, all right, cool. I wanted to one last thing. I didn't touch on my video because I was more concerned about the visibility.
Okay.
But getting down into the weeds a little bit, I completely agree with you on your point about selling the components. That they're kind of walking a fine edge here, and they need to be real careful about what they offer in the future. They haven't done it yet, like you said.
I'm comfortable with what's there.
Right, I'm comfortable with what's there because it's not the best item. It's kind of a middle ground, a little bit of a head start. But we
don't even know what item it is, really. It's also part of the problem.
That's true. Right.
Is we have no idea. Nobody knows if they're good or not because none of the game elements are even realized. Which is also getting in the weeds. It's pretty. You're selling things that nobody even knows what they're buying. That's kind of fucked up.
Yeah.
For lack of better words, I don't know what else to say. Is nobody even knows what they're buying, and you're selling them. It's a little weird. But they kind of give their intentions in those descriptions, so hopefully they just live up to those intentions.
Yeah, as long as they do that, I think that'll be fine. I think where they are now is if, the way I see it is if it's like just 1 or 2 steps ahead of like a base package, just to give you a little bit of a heads up to do or a head start to do 1 or 2 other specialized missions. I think that's perfect. That's fine. Just don't say offer a bunch of class A's for like $100 extra, because that really is the getting at the ethos of people's impulsive behavior. That is the really dark, seedy crap that you see happen in a lot of those really nasty phone MMOs. The phone games I'm talking about, right? Yeah. So
and Chris even mentioned them in the video that I
I think he did. You're right.
Is that people buy those things, so why won't they buy from us? And it was like...
Right, but don't use them as an example, Chris.
Yeah, don't use them or World of Tanks as an example, Chris, like you did, please.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so it's definitely a fine line. It's just, I would really... Because you have to hear it from them, and it has to be pretty clear that there is a line, and, yeah. And that's what we don't have with this system currently.
And they need to be upfront about it, not only on the website, but, just to take sometimes I think they don't take some of these things head on like they should. Somebody talking about in a dev post or doing it on a ATC or something, or reverse the verse or something, something like that. Just kind of taking these issues head on. I kind of wish they did that a little bit more with the serious big stuff, not like the little crappy stuff you see pop up on Reddit where like people are angry because of one little issue that happened, whatever.
Yeah,
you know what I'm
this
talking
is
about.
much bigger than that.
This is bigger than that. Yeah.
This has the potential to be bigger than that.
Game.
Yeah. Not right now, but it has the potential, which is dangerous. But all right, Morph.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for calling. I'll bring in the next caller here, and I hope to hear from you on the show again soon.
Absolutely. My pleasure, awesome. Man. Take it easy.
All right, buddy. Bye. All right, and our next caller is IDDKFA.
Yo, what up, man?
What up?
I can actually keep my introduction pretty short because I think the previous callers covered a lot of ground.
Okay.
Just where I stand, for me, everything cosmetic would be fair game to sell. Of
course.
But I don't like touching any gameplay affecting components, and of course they did.
Yeah.
And
to be fair, I don't like it either, but as long as it doesn't go too far, I can get behind it.
And that's where I can add an additional point where I think they take it too far, because let's say at launch they will sell stock grade components, so pretty much side grades to the base ships we have right now.
Okay.
Who says that 6 months later they could up it to a B grade, like selling B grade components, and argue that the average component grade the player base
is much higher now.
Is higher now.
Oof. Right. Oof. Oof.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I think
isn't that kind of what happened with WoW?
Could be a real possibility.
Couldn't you like buy up to 110 level character in World of Warcraft or something? I don't play WoW, so I don't know. But
You can skip levels.
You could skip quite a bit. The longer, the more levels they put in the game, the farther you can go.
Absolutely, and I still think, even if it sounds odd, it's a fair comparison because, like you mentioned, the ship is our progression. So the
Yes,
ship
and
is
Chris
kinda
says that.
our level.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chris says that in 2018 CitizenCon. I should have put it in the video and I didn't.
that's right. So I think we are getting prepared for a much longer development phase, so well beyond 2020. And that itself isn't as shocking because we know that's going to happen for a long, long time whenever Chris talks about Star Citizen as a live service game.
Yeah,
But
it's over. It's over. The game is released.
yeah,
And, you know?
but what will be the release quality of Star Citizen?
Yeah.
I mean, you have a release at some point, and that's the time when they take money as profit.
Yeah.
So
Well, potentially money as profit, or I don't know. We could. This is a discussion for another day, I think, but it should be when they stop selling ships.
which I think will never happen. But
Agreed.
let's say it's the day when they when all the money they make isn't going into development anymore.
Yeah.
And one issue I have is I don't hear a lot about feature complete anymore. It's more like tech complete now, with
Yeah.
all the pillars, including the final task, server meshing, right?
Yep.
But at the day they get server meshing done, will we have all the ships by then?
No.
Will we have all the professions by then?
Probably not.
And that's why, to me, live service games are a serious cop out. And that's
Yeah.
why I think, just to close the circle, CIG is trying to sell everything they can to keep the funding going, because server meshing won't be the end of development of the core features. What was called as feature complete before, with all the professions and chips, etc. That won't be happening when server meshing is done. I think server meshing will be done before, let's say, all the professions are in the game.
Yeah, potentially. And that was definitely part of why I put some of the things that I did in the video, was to realize that this is going to be very expensive and we still have quite a bit of time, and I think that they realize that. So finding other avenues for funding, because Chris isn't going to give up, was very important to them. But and any diehard Star Citizen fan is going to look at that and say, okay, keep going, Chris, make the game. I'm one of those people. But at the same time, I'm one of those people that say, it's got to stop somewhere, and it's just got to stop somewhere. Because if you start affecting the game being fun, or just preventing people from playing the game at all because all they have to do is buy things, like those are extreme examples, but at some point it's got to stop.
Yeah, it's a business after all, right? So
Yeah.
Every business is trying to push and
Is
push
it,
and
though?
push and see what they can get away with.
Well, let's hold here. We know that they have one investor, and then they have Chris, Sandy, and Aaron, and Ortwin, and whoever the original people were. And I imagine that those people are not getting shares of company or something like that, but more along the lines of percentage of profit at some point. Maybe there was some promise there. Pure speculation. We have no idea. But
Yeah, of course.
let's use the example of this. Is using all the money for the development of the game is still paying Ortwin, Chris, Aaron, and Sandy. So to keep that going, and whether the game is feature complete or not, doesn't matter. Let's say everything is feature complete, everything in terms of all of the promised features come in, and that is the release of the game. They still, and Chris has said this many, many times, he wants this to go on for 10 years, and he wants to continue to add things to the game. Well, he'll be paying fewer developers than he's paying now, and he will still be paying himself and his close friends and family. So by continuing the development and, you know, maybe not going too far, but still paying yourself, you're not actually concerned about profit because you don't owe any money to any shareholders necessarily. But you do continue to pay the salaries of the people that were there at the beginning. And then you're getting rid of many of the artists and some of the developers that have worked on it to get it to feature complete, but you have the core group, and those people are always getting paid. So do you kind of get the point that I'm making? Where it contradicts you a little bit?
I think you forget Squadron episode 2 and 3, right?
Yeah.
So you need a lot more money.
Oh yeah.
After the game is released to continue what you said you try to do.
Yeah.
Right.
Of course.
And I think for me it's just the issue if you give him the small finger, like saying we're fine with selling gameplay affecting components now, they will push that to a point where the community outrages.
Yeah, and I mean they're slowly losing the community, I would say now a little bit. But, you know, if they spend most of their time on Reddit or only looking at the good things, everything seems quite fine. And for the most part I think it is, but if they keep going, eventually something bad's going to happen. And like Morphologis said, their view from outside of the community is already horrible. But, you know, if you keep going, your view from inside the community is going to start to get horrible as well. And I think with the way that my YouTube content has grown and the way this individual show has grown, it's grown from the fact that people are agreeing with the views that I have, which are more on the skeptical side of things. And it's growing because more people are sharing that opinion with me. And it's because of the choices that they've made in the last year or so. Not because of the feature creep choices many years ago. It's more because of the interesting and somewhat debatable choices that they've been making lately.
Yeah, because there are just a lot of polarizing decisions CIG made that we can talk about. I mean, I think you would love to talk about more positive things about Star Citizen.
I don't want to talk about
right now,
anything other than how to do X in the game. How to min-max. That's all I want to do with this game. That's all I want to do with any game that I play is think about it deeply and share it with my friends. You know, the things that I came up with. And what do you think? Do you have any idea? You know, that's what I want and have always wanted to be. But it's turned into this, and it's disappointing.
From time to time, I sit here and think about a positive topic for the show, and all I can come up with is known things like the game looks great, but after that, it's more like what is the vision of the game, and that's all speculation, and a lot of things are polarizing. How we get there, how we get to a good, great game everybody wants to play and enjoy.
I mean, yeah, we can have a circle jerk ATC where we all sit here and speculate and theory craft about all the cool things that we're going to be able to do. But we've been doing that for 5-6 years now. You know, that'd be nothing new.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah.
So, well, that's what I had to say.
All right.
I just think it won't stop with just selling gameplay components on a side grade level. I think it will push further.
Okay. I hope not, but I have the same concerns as you know. But all right, IDD, we're going to bring in our final caller, so thank you so much.
All right, later, man.
Have a good one. Hey, WRZLPRFT. That name, god damn it. How's it going, man?
Hello.
So-
Allergies and stuff, but otherwise fine.
Okay. So what are your
Uh,
thoughts on the whole customization thing?
Just one thing to something that the previous caller said
Mhm.
about like anything cosmetic is fine to sell. I agree that of any type of cosmetic, it is fine to sell a bunch, however many there will be.
Yeah.
But there should be some meaningful cosmetics still left in game, so you can show that you achieved something in game that's not necessarily a certain type of ship or weapon or whatnot.
Yes. Agreed.
Okay.
Like a Vandal dagger or something, right? Like you killed a
Yeah,
Vandal
or-
in hand-to-hand combat. Like it could be anything, obviously.
Yeah, or I don't know. Like for a certain system, there is a certain, like for example, the Xi'an have like they have a very strong mafia kind of vibe to their law enforcement,
Mm-hmm.
where they basically rent out, if a gang is strong enough, they basically rent out a system to them so they can police it. While we probably will not have access to those kind of systems in a long time. Like, for example, if you're good enough in relations with them, have a skin that matches their color scheme or something like that. That won't mean much to most players, but for some who know what that means, that would be like the greatest thing ever.
Gotcha.
Whatever, that was just a tangent. Anyway, so my point is, how do I? Oh well, what is basically playing a game, whether it's a board game or computer game, at its core? It's a promise by the game designer that it will be a fun experience, and the player buys into that.
Everybody plays games for different reasons. I can say in my own experience, it's to escape reality into the reality that the developer created, and it should be fun. It being fun is what does that, right?
The fun for everybody is different, but you're buying in on the promise of the game dev that there is an intended fun you can find. Like, getting the right game and the right fun for you is an entire different topic.
Mm-hmm.
I just point to Steam and Steam reviews. This game doesn't do what I expected yet. Then did you read the description?
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, this description for Star Citizen is you can do any. Imagine. I'll just leave that.
Yeah, I'll just push it forward towards the cosmetic stuff, so I get to the point, unlike last time I was rambling. Anyway.
I'm the worst rambler, so don't worry.
So how could like these customizations, especially the packages with components, fit in there in that promise, basically? Because that's the only way like the community would accept those promises, those packages.
Yeah.
In a good faith. And it's there are players out there which do not necessarily not have the time, but like getting into, let's call it buildcraft, because that's what it essentially is, getting the components for a certain type of thing you want to do, just like making a build for a raid in another MMO or something.
Sure.
Some players do not have the mind space or do not want to put in the effort to get into that buildcraft.
Okay, that's fair.
So that's like, there are basically exceptional gamers, and there is the normal gamer. And many Star Citizen players, which are currently sticking with the project, are these exceptional gamers who want to spend their time getting
hours
into
thinking about the
whatnot.
best stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, even if they say, I just want to have fun and explore, they still spend the time to pick out their exploration ship and their hopes and stuff. But I know a player in Guild Wars 2 I played occasionally who basically just always goes on the website and copies the meta build and then wonders why he falls on his nose. Well, the meta build is a glass cannon build because that class is best as glass cannon or whatnot. And in the open world, running around alone in an MMO, you just get killed with a glass cannon build.
Yeah.
So that's where these packages can really help and make a lot of sense, easing newer players or even experience, but
into
more
certain styles
veteran
of gameplay,
players.
right?
Yes, yeah, it's like it should be not energy loadout or ballistic loadout, but like in my opinion, it should be more purpose bound loadouts.
Okay, well,
for example,
let's
if
pick
you
your
if
head.
you
What other than stealth? What would be some other purpose-bound loadouts for a 300i? 300i,
Well,
315p, 350R. Go, you know.
I recently got more into racing in Star Citizen.
Yes.
And for example, like removing the weapons can make a really great difference from ship to ship.
Okay.
Because you lose weight, you can accelerate more, and that like just even shaving off 1 or 2 seconds can make a huge difference. Because in the past, there was in the 3.3 or 3.4, there was a 1 second difference on the old Vanderwaal map in Arena Commander between the M50 and the 350R.
Yeah.
But still, everybody would use the M50 because 1 second over 3 laps is still 3 seconds. And if your opponent is as good as a pilot as you are, you're never going to catch up.
Yeah.
So,
and it's just
example,
the superior ship. I mean, come on.
Well,
it's my favorite. That's why.
Yes, and
my
no,
favorite racing ship.
But yeah, but like,
I was just joking. I wasn't being serious.
No, I'm just not trying to go off too far because I have a lot of things I could say, but yeah. So for the 350R, for example, if you want to say, okay, you want to make it a more racing thing and not like the like a more gearing towards an F1 car, just have a loadout that has no weapons. It sounds stupid, but that would be something that pushes it more towards racing. Or for example, what I think like many ships currently have some weird mixture between gimbaled weapons and fixed weapons. That could be.
Do you mind if I jump in? Do you mind if I jump in and I'll steer it into more what I think you're trying to get at? But I'll ask you a question with it.
Feel free to.
Do you think that part of the issue here with the system is what I said earlier, where the components don't have not abilities, but they don't give you the ability to steer yourself in any certain direction, right?
Yes.
How I look at for like how you're using the racing example, I've always mentioned that maybe there should be racing shields, a racing style shield that as you get close to another ship, it kind of repels you from that ship instead of taking damage and crashing, because there's always this concern with racers that what's it going to be like in the real game? Because you crash so much when you race that you're going to die quicker than your character will die quicker than other people. That could be an example, or stealth is obvious an example, but like there is the issue with the component customization right now, less that they're going to be selling high-end components or that they're not selling unique enough components.
Yeah, like
they're all the same. Everything's the same.
Points here on my paper. We currently do not have we definitely not have the UI to display the real difference between the components.
Okay.
But like we currently do not really have the styles we would have want to go. Like one of the few things I could think of is like, okay, have the base variant have mixed loadout, like whatever, fixed and gimbal, and then have packages which is only fixed or only gimbal.
Mm-hmm.
So a player that is already in game can say, oh well, yeah, no, I don't use gimbal weapons at all. I'll just want to get a loadout with all fixed weapons.
Yeah.
Like if you, I also think that would alleviate some pressure from CIG because, well, they're obviously not connecting them to the UEC value currently.
Yeah.
If they would connect it to a purpose, then they could later on justify changing the thing they sell with, it's no longer really fitting the purpose. And I don't know, maybe have existing backers who purchase the package decide whether they want to keep the old one or get the new one or whatever. Like, you can do a lot of stuff if you have, like, I don't want to get to the point. It's just, I would find it way better if they bind it to purpose, because then they can get they also can get the money, but they can alleviate the players who don't want to spend time on buildcraft to at least have a start into a certain direction.
Well, how far would you go then? Because getting them into purpose is fine, but how far into that purpose? Because going to Noobifier's video, he talked about the Orion, right? And it comes out with all C grade components, but then you could spend $500 to get it to the highest. Well, you're still, the ships already push you into a purpose. Like that's the kind of whole thing.
That's where the legacy stuff that Star Citizen carries around with it really comes in and bites it in the butt.
And they want these components to be unique, but it's the ship that's unique.
Yeah, no, it's the point is where CIG have to deliver on their end of the bargain of replaying their game.
Yeah.
They have to make it so that it makes sense and that it makes fun. I am just convinced that a purpose-bound thing
is
would be better than just straight upgrades. Like
like it's always better every level. Yeah. Like a linear upgrade.
Yeah.
You don't want necessarily a linear upgrade, but you want some horizontal side-to-side movement as you're moving up the ladder. Okay.
Yeah, the thing is just that's one of Star Citizen's greatest strengths and greatest dangers.
Yeah.
It's like they have the funding to, in the end, focus on making it working and fun, but also at the same time, if they mess up once and really destroy all faith, they have no money at all. So
I'm not convinced that's possible with how many times they've messed up.
Yeah.
I'm not convinced that shit's possible, but yeah.
I am just trying to stay somewhat short and not wander off on tangents. So I'm doing a little bit of generalization the way I talk. So yeah,
that's fair.
It's so arbitrary. Like the many things in game design are so arbitrary until you choose something, and then it limits you in with the rest.
Yeah.
So CIG has to really continue to pick out something on that scale of what all the options they have that does not limit their path forward. Like Star Citizen is built on the hope, on the potential of the entire thing. If they really run themselves into a corner where there is no escape anymore, it still can fail.
Oh yeah, of course.
If they keep with this customization, like they've shown that they know the potential, that they can utilize the potential, but they snuck in the packages, which is again not the best thing we backers could have seen them. No, wait, sorry, my English just messed up. It's not the best way we think they could have taken, even as a tier 0.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but still, they delivered on the potential and also snuck in the other thing. But at the point where we cannot see the potential anymore, that's where it really gets dangerous. So yeah, they have to really walk that line of making a game so awesome because they can make it, and at the same time ensure that they have a future.
Yeah.
And
I think that's the point of the system, is to ensure that they have a future more than anything in the short term right now. Right? It's not really a money grab. If it was a money grab, the customization that my girlfriend did on her spaceship before we started the show today would have not been $12, it would have been $30. Right?
Yeah, at least.
At least. Exactly.
Yeah.
So the cosmetic side of things, I mean, we didn't do any of the, in my opinion, pointless upgrades. So yeah, I guess I'll leave you there, WRZL, and we'll kind of leave the show there. But thank you so much for your call. You made a lot of actually really interesting points, and yeah, I definitely agree with them. It's go ahead. Do you have anything else?
I really agree that there has to be a statement ideally made by Chris Roberts himself about like just to ensure that faith.
Yeah.
Because every time he's talking, he's
the last
really
time he really
wonders.
addressed this was in 2013. Like with
in
that
general,
forum post, which was a great way to address it. But it's
every
time. There's been a million plus new people since you did that, and a whole new website.
For example, me, I just joined last year in April.
Yeah, they went over like a lot of on his shows. Like he used to do a show that you may not be aware of called 10 for the Chairman, and we started getting upset when they would answer the same question because we always wanted new and more and better. And the thing is that as the project grew, more and more people came in, and they didn't know the answers to the questions that were being asked. So specifically about pay to win, if he addresses it, and he addresses it in the exact same way that he did in 2013, confidence somewhat restored for me. I don't necessarily believe every word that comes out of their mouth because things are always in flux and things are changing, but you can't take what he says as 100% concrete. But at the same time, any statement now, since you've gotten 1 million plus backers, probably closer to 2 since then, it's probably time to address, come back and address that, especially since you put the system in that could be perceived as pay to win, especially like Morphologis said. It's hard not to perceive that because there is nothing on the website where you're buying the stuff to tell you that, hey, it's here.
Yeah, Chris Roberts is also really good at like pointing out the way they might want to go in terms of what the end goal is, like where the potential really can go to, like the RTV for the flight model thing. I think it was the one for the flight model that really did wonders, because before we really didn't know like where do they really want to go.
Yeah, it's true. All right, Wurzel. Have a wonderful Sunday, and I guess we'll see you soon. Whenever the next time you call in. All right? Talk to you later, bud. All right, so guys, that was Answer the Call. Your thoughts on ship customization. I hope you guys enjoyed the show. I definitely always enjoy doing things like this. And yeah, I think you guys made a lot of really awesome points. Some where guys are not happy with the system at all. Some, somewhere in between. But overall, I think the theme kind of still fits along with the general theme of the YouTube video that I made titled "The Star Citizen: The Funding Saga Continues." Is where's the line, and that we hope to find out where the line is sooner than later. So again, guys, I really hope you enjoyed it, and that is it for today's show. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys enjoyed this and you're watching on YouTube, we do this live on Twitch every Sunday. If there's a topic worth talking about, I usually will take a week off here and there if things are kind of quiet, to just not fake it, right? And we do it live on twitch.tv/MikeRod17 on Sundays at 10 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. And we do the calls on Discord, so discord.gg/MikeRod17, and you can join the show live yourself, as well as take part in our community discussions about Star Citizen and other games, and just any general topics. So make sure you guys check those out. And if you're watching on Twitch, and you haven't seen the whole show, you can watch the VOD on YouTube later today or early tomorrow, depending on how YouTube acts. Sometimes it's a jerk. And yeah, so subscribe for more videos like this in the future, guys. Hit the like button, and definitely want to hear your comments about the system below. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week. Bye, everybody.